Our next presenter is Jordyn Daggs Olson, and Jordyn is from South Hardin High School in Eldora. She is the daughter of Jacqueline Daggs and Mike Olson, and the title of her presentation is Investing in Iowa's Future by Learning to Treasure Its Past. Please welcome Jordyn.
Old MacDonald had a farm museum, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm museum he had 43 third graders, E-I-E-I-O. With shelling corn here and shaking butter there. Here a shell, there a shake, everywhere a shell and shake. Old MacDonald had a farm museum, E-I-E-I-O. Hi everyone, my name is Jordyn, and my project was in investing in Iowa's future by learning to treasure its past. Every generation has the right to build its own world out of materials of the past, cemented by the hopes of the future. A quote by the 31st President of the United States and an uncommon man, Herbert Hoover. Do you ever think about how amazing our world has become because of the technology in it? At the press of a button, you have the world at your fingertips. It's truly astonishing what one person can be capable of through computers and smartphones. What's even crazier to believe than that is that the youth of our communities have only ever grown up with the luxury of having technology all around them. Every day, younger kids are becoming more comfortable using technology, and with that, their daily lives become consumed by it. The world is ending because there's no Wi-Fi to connect to, or my smartphone's batteries died. These are the major issues in youth lives, and the age of that continues to get younger and younger. Well, believe it or not, there was a world before the iPhone came out, or before computers were even dreamed of. There is hard work done every single day that is unimaginable to a kid now. Many things that were done not even 100 years ago are unknown to today's youth, but deserve recognition and respect. When I was in 4th grade, I joined my local 4-H club and worked at a pancake breakfast at the Hardin County Farm Museum as a community service project. There, I met this man named Ed Ziesman, better known as Grandpa Ed, and we hit it out right away. He was a 70-something-year-old man, full of life, and always had something to say. As the pancake breakfast came along, Grandpa Ed came up with his game for us to play, an altered version of hide-and-go-seek, if you will. I'd hide this stuffed Dalmatian dog and this cowboy doll somewhere upstairs in the dairy barn, and he would have to go find them. Well, when he did, he would tell me about where I put them, what the object was, and how it was used a long time ago. I could always see the way his eyes lit up when he told me stories about when he was a young boy. It's not until I look back at it now that I realized what Ed was really doing. He was teaching me about life in the early 1900s, while I just thought it was a silly game of hide-and-go-seek. We went from the upstairs of the dairy barn to a one-room schoolhouse. Even in my 7th year of working at the farm museum, I still see new things that I haven't, and learn from the stories that people tell me about what life was like before modern technology was around. It was these eye-opening experiences and Grandpa Ed who inspired me to take the initiative and educate the youth of my community about what life was like in the past, as well as excite them, just how Grandpa Ed did with me. I first had to decide what age or grade that I wanted to do this program with. During my elementary school years, I actually went to the farm museum and to Living History Farms during 5th grade. I knew 2nd grade and lower would be too young since they don't cover social studies, and in 4th grade they usually taught the 50 states. This left me with the 3rd grade. It just so happens that I know this group of kids very well. Through student teaching, being their swimming lessons teacher, and a couple babysitting jobs that include a set of twins. Well, that's a whole different story. Just from knowing these kids so well, I could already predict the level of enthusiasm that I would get from a class field trip rather than normal school time. So the grade is selected. Now I just have to decide what I'm going to focus on. I think about the times I run around with Grandpa Ed through the farm museum grounds. How do you teach kids about life in the 1920s without complete and total chaos? Well, of course, you use your space to your advantage. The farm museum consists of a two-story dairy barn, a one-room schoolhouse, and a couple sheds that hold farm equipment. Going off of that, I divide the areas into 3 separate learning sections: education in the one-room schoolhouse, farm equipment, and more of everyday life and technology in the dairy barn. After I had a clear picture of how I wanted to go about this project, I got in contact with the elementary principal, the 3rd grade teachers, and the Hardin County Farm Museum Board to get their approval. Thankfully, everyone approved, and as soon as I received news that I was a finalist for this project, or for this award, it was a go. I already had the topics that I wanted to focus on. Now came how to integrate the classroom learning with the field trip. After detailed research over the summer, I came to the conclusion that I wanted this to be more of a broad overview exposure for the kids rather than detailed specific learning. Also during the summer, I met with the elementary teachers to discuss what learning activities and tools that would work best to keep the kids engaged. I knew I didn't want to make the activities difficult or make it feel like homework. We also decided what field trip day would work best and fit their classroom schedules. And so the field trip will be on Friday, September 16th, with the 3 days prior to be used as classroom learning. The classroom learning portion of this project was a combination of videos and worksheets. The videos were created by the Farm Museum and commissioned by them. I designed a few worksheets that were centered around the video's topic for the day. My main goal of these worksheets was not to make the kids absorb a bunch of facts, but rather make them look at the differences between life today and life back then, and how they're different, mainly through technological advances. A few of the worksheets included a matching worksheet with daily items used today with their predecessors, a farming equipment worksheet that made the kids think about which would have been used in the 1920s based off the video that they watched, and one called Planning My Day, which gave a brief description about what life was like as a third grader in the 1920s and 1930s versus their daily routine. Now that the classroom learning was covered, I had to put the field trip together. I was lucky enough to have such close connections with the Farm Museum that lots of my assistants came from the other volunteers there. I asked a former teacher of mine to lead the one-room schoolhouse area with a mini lesson, a short spelling bee, and a brief tour and description about what it was like going to school. I brought in a retired farmer who described what the farm machinery was and how it worked, and even got a few pieces of hand machinery out for the kids to be able to actually try. And finally, the dairy barn was divided into its own 3 separate sections since there are so many antiques that could be covered. Downstairs, I had 3 helpers who led the butter making section and told the kids about how butter used to be made. 2 groups were upstairs, one that showed the evolution of cooking and washing, and the other that simply gave the kids a chance to look around, point to things, and to ask what they were. I had a family friend of mine as well as 2 parents of 3rd graders to be the group leaders for the day, keeping the kids on track of their schedules and moving them from place to place. September 16th had finally arrived. All the jars for the kids to make butter in were filled, the farm machinery was out, the corn cobs for them to shell were out, and all of my volunteers were there. Now we just had to wait for the bus to arrive. The transportation for the kids was sponsored by a local business. Previously in the week, I had the teachers divide the kids into 3 separate sections based off name tag color, and then their group leaders had a corresponding color folder with their day's agenda. Once the kids got there, the groups were divided and everyone was sent to their first station. The next 3 hours flew by. The enthusiasm I predicted for this group to have did not disappoint. They tried their best to dress in period clothing and were engaged about their activities. At the end of the field trip, once all the kids went back to school, I was still in awe of how well it went. I asked a few of them of what they had learned, and I was pleasantly surprised with their responses. A few were about the one-room schoolhouse, how one teacher taught all 8 grades and that she could not be married. One was that there was simply a lot of hard work done back then. A few were about the farm machinery, what they were, how they worked, and how long it took to do things, and the fact that they had to use an outhouse back then. My goal for the kids to learn something had been completed. It was later that night at the football game that one of the girls came up to me and said, "Thank you, Jordyn, for taking me on this field trip," that I realized how much the kids truly enjoyed it. And finally, a couple weeks ago, the Farm Museum had a fall festival going on. A few of the kids actually came back with their families for it. This boy named Caleb came back with his family and showed them around the dairy barn, the schoolhouse, and the sheds, and told them about what he had learned. It was in that moment that my goal of impacting a kid's life, just how Grandpa Ed did with me, was accomplished. Overall, I thought this project was a big success, and that this is just the beginning. My plan is to give it to the Farm Museum to offer to the 3rd grade again, as well as homeschool groups and other surrounding area schools to do. There are a few changes that I would like to make, some that I can and can't control. The night before the field trip, my town received heavy rainfall. A part of the farm machinery tour was to actually harvest a row of corn for the kids to watch, but it was too wet to do so. Obviously, that's something I can't control. but I was lucky enough that the rain had moved out prior to the morning of the field trip. Another change that I would make would be to bring in more retired farmers to make more of a panel for the kids to listen to and ask questions about what their daily lives were like as kids. Even with all these possible additions or changes to my project, I still believe it was a positive learning experience for the kids. Life has not always been as easy as it is now. We have technology to thank for that. In order to be grateful for what you have now, you need to have some type of knowledge and understanding of what life was like back then. And with that understanding comes progress for the future. This project has generated lots of excitement in my community about what it could be in years to come and what the Farm Museum can do to educate the next generation. All these now third graders are going to grow up and become adults, and some, if not many, will come back to this community. I hope that this experience will stay with them as they mature and that they can continue to keep the Farm Museum going and the legacy of educating the next generation about the past alive. Herbert Hoover held a deep passion for working with kids, which is evident with his work with Boys Club of America for over 25 years. He spearheaded a campaign throughout the United States to conserve materials for European allies. This rang true in the rural Midwest and was in step with Midwest values. Hoover's belief for a strong education for a brighter future, as well as the importance of being uncommon, is instilled in many people still today. I was fortunate enough to meet Grandpa Ed, another uncommon man. He showed me what his life was like at my age and made me appreciate what his generation put in, all the hard work, in order for me to have what I have now. In order to be grateful for what is around us today, you have to acknowledge and understand what life was like before. Thank you. Any questions?
Were these pictures taken on that day?
Yes, they were.
Okay, I thought they were. Did you do any kind of a written evaluation or have the students take like a little test or ask them questions of, beyond what they just related to you as in kind of story form to see what they learned?
Thank you for that question, which was, did I have any evaluations? Which, yes, I did. I had, once they got back to school, I had a little sheet for them to fill out. The teachers had them. And it was, did you like the field trip? Yes or no? And what did you learn from it? And whether or not they liked the videos and worksheets that they did. And all of them were yes. And it was very interesting trying to figure out what they had learned because we had a little spelling, but it was pretty, overall it was pretty positive stuff. And there was one that didn't like the worksheets and videos, which, of course, you're always going to have someone who doesn't want to do homework. I was one of those people. Totally understand. And so, yes, I did have that. So I wanted to have just like a general, and I did ask a few of them. I asked 12 of them what they learned and if they liked it throughout the week.
And you can use that to help you plan next year's.
Yes.
So you want to do this with more third graders, that is not only in your school, but in schools in the area?
Yes,
Bring them in there?
Yes, there are approximately like 6 other schools in my surrounding area community that could get to the Farm Museum, and that I could also help with them. And yes, and then if going even more forward, if it could be even more advanced to then high schoolers, that was also an option that I was thinking about, for them to come and look at stuff, like farm machinery for ag classes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So maybe just tagging on that a little bit. So what is your level of confidence that next year's third grade class would be able to do this again for your school? What kind of commitment have you received from the other organizations that you need the support from?
Thank you for that question. And the support that I've gotten is one of the mothers that was a group leader. She is also part of a big ag company for our community, which is called Perry Ag Services. And any of the costs that I had to take for it, like the jars for the butter, which was very minimal cost, she said that they would donate that. So that way, if the school was like hesitant towards it, then they wouldn't have to bear that cost. And also the third grade teachers let me know that they have really enjoyed this and that they'll keep going. They'll try and keep going with it. And the farm museum is very supportive of it. And I've already started putting stuff together so that it's just kind of like a broad overview of how I did it and how there could be possible changes for the future.
I know you mentioned before the actual day that there were videos and kind of worksheets that they completed in class or after class. What were some of the topics that was touched on,
The videos or the worksheets?
if they differed?
Okay, so the school one, it differed. I had it stop after it talked about what the school teacher talked about, but it was just like mainly of like how they used tin cups for water and like how they had to walk at least a mile to get to their school, and of how old they were and how many were just in our county. I believe there were over 100 county schools and little country schools were in our county. And so then going off of that, there was a main one for that had them follow along and had to fill in the blank or do true false so that they could apply what they had heard in the video to a worksheet. Sorry. And then off of the everyday life, it was pretty much, they were pretty much coincided of what they had learned in that. It was about 15 minutes long of each video, and then it would go off of it. Farm equipment was mainly of having pictures, and it was like circle what would have been used in the 1920s. Based off of the video that you would watch, so like the one-row picker or the hand sheller, so stuff like that.
So I'm wondering, children in your community, how familiar do you think they are in general with modern farming techniques? I mean, that they can make a comparison to what they learned at the museum.
Thank you for that question, and which was of how the kids in my community could relate to the farming now, right? And my biggest idea of that is that I have this boy that I know, his name's Lucas Perry, and he lives on a farm. He knows like the different stuff, so his eyes lit up when he saw the old threshing machine that was set out. A few of them were like me. I live in town, I don't know very much. But off the video that I'd watched, I learned some stuff. So I'm hoping that like from the video and from like the actual stuff that they can point stuff out. They might not know exactly what it does, but they have like a general description. And I wanted it to be like that still the farm kids, I guess, were still like happy about it and that like it was something for them to take from it. While also the ones that didn't know very much about it knew something, that they understood what it was supposed to do.
And I'm curious, what would be an example of hand machinery from the 20s that the kids would get to try to play with or try to make work? What would be an example of something like that?
Yeah, and so they had a hand sheller, the hand machine, they had a hand sheller. So we had the corn cobs, and we had someone there where they'd put the corn cob in and they'd grind that up. So then the shells would go into the bucket. And then from that, we'd take a scoopful into the grinder, so that would grind it up for chicken feed. And he'd like describe how that was used for chicken feed, how it had to grind up because they can't eat the little kernels. So, yes.
Thank you, Jordyn.